All right, so my name's Jeff, and this is a talk for independent app developers. And I know a lot of you guys, like you're Android app developers, right? But you work for like a company. And you're working on an app, but it's not your app, right? It's like some other company's app. And I think a lot of the dream for a lot of these people is that you create an app, maybe a killer app, and then you're able to do it independently, right? And there are a lot of independent. Can I get a raise of hands? How many independent Android app developers are here? Oh snap! Okay, we got less than half. We got half a dozen, give or take. And let me. I'll ask a follow-up. How many people here want to be independent, or like not want to, but like, hey, if that came up and you're an independent app developer, you'd be into it? So the majority of the people, okay. Good. So this is a talk for everybody. No matter what company you shill for right now, someday maybe you'll rise up. All right, so, I say that like some authority on it. I'm not at all. But I work for a company called XDA Developers, and I'm the lead developer on an app store they have called XDA Labs. So I've seen like hundreds of indie devs use this app store. And this is a talk on what I've seen work, what I think works with these developers. I'm going to try to make this work. I can't control it. Eric, help.
Just left and right. Arrows.
Left and right's not working. See, this is what happens when you have a Mac, I guess. This is literally the first time I've ever used a Mac, so I'm not really sure what's happening. All right. This is not going to be a lightning talk. We've already gone past 10 minutes. All right, so there's, in my opinion, kind of 4 areas of success here, right? Not really, but these are the 4 I'm going to talk about. So the first one, which is like a real hard thing for a lot of developers, is design, right? A lot of developers, or indie developers, are engineer types. And design does not come naturally, understandably, right? Like you can't be good at everything, and design is a whole other set of skills. So you see a lot of these indie apps, and you know the design's not so great. Next is promotion, so that's the ways to promote your app. Then ways to distribute your app, and then finally how to engage and create a community. And so design, we're going to start that off, we're going to get into the thick of it. A lot of developers think that design is material design, right? So you see that app, you see the fab, the toolbar, the nav drawer, all the things you see in material design, right? But that's kind of it. And you see a lot of these like kind of crappier indie apps that have that like typical kind of interface. They use material design and that's great, but material design is just a guideline. What about the bigger user experience? What about like a bigger picture? What about the flow, user stories, all the things that come with like a kind of a better design, right? So my suggestion is just like straight up get a designer. So designer does all that, right? Does all those things. They create user stories. They go through. And not only that, they help you with development. They can help you create wireframes and mock-ups. And like I say here, it can be the difference between a fancy prototype and a well-thought-out, enjoyable app. And they can create your graphics, right? They can create your icon, your banner, your screenshots, all the stuff that is kind of a nightmare in my mind. Whenever I think of creating an icon, I'm like, it's not good, right? So they can do all that for you. But here's the thing, right? You can't just get a designer. Where are you going to get a designer? A designer in Toronto? That's like $200 an hour. You're not going to get a designer. That's insane, right? But you can get a designer, guys. There's ways of doing it. The first way, go to a meetup. Go to a designer meetup. You could give a talk as an Android developer about the struggles of design in Android. After that talk, they're coming to you. They're like, oh my God, how can I help? Ideally, right? So go to a meetup. There's so many design meetups. There's UX meetups. There's tons of them. JavaScript is way more popular than Android, by the way. If you go to a JavaScript meetup, it's insane. And design's not JavaScript, but kind of. Subreddits. There's a lot of design subreddits. It's the exact same thing. People are trying to get into the industry. They want work. They want to find stuff to do. And a lot of these guys, like you know, when you start Android development, you have a GitHub, you're trying to flesh out your GitHub, they want to flesh out their portfolio as a designer. They graduate school, they have nothing to show except for school projects. If you present to them an app that sounds interesting enough and you collaborate with them, and it's not like I'm hiring you, it's like we're working together on this, they're pretty receptive to that, I found. Play Store doesn't have designers, but it does have a lot of icon packs and themes, which are made by designers. Those aren't apps. They're like straight up designs. If you reach out to any of those devs, they're already inclined enough to make a weird icon pack or theme thing, which is pretty much only for rooted users. Like, you're going directly to a weird developer, design hybrid person is perfect. And then finally, there's a couple sites, Material Up and Dribble. Have you guys ever heard of these sites? Okay. It's like a Pinterest of design snapshots and icons and all types of stuff. You can browse it, find a design you like, and just reach out directly to that designer. Hey, you're like, hey, I'll mention you in the app. We're co-creating this app. Whatever you say, as long as you're not paying $200 Toronto styles an hour, however you can convince them, that's pretty good. And if you don't want to go that route, if you're like, yeah, okay, I'm never going to find a designer, despite all the very, all the ways I just said you could. If you're like if you don't believe me, this is a banner I made for an app of mine. And at the very least, you take a Nexus 5, you put a screenshot of that Nexus 5, and then you zoom in and blur the background, and then you got a banner. It took me 10 minutes in the GIMP. Everybody's a fan of the GIMP. So I just talked about design, right? You got your designer, you got a great icon, you got a great banner, I hope, and you got some good screenshots. How do you get your app out there, right? I mean, promotion is something a lot of devs also don't think about. They think, oh, my app will go viral, or it's functionally enough to... Technical devs, engineer types do not really promote, and they don't like promoting for good reason. It's a nightmare. But here's a kind of a trick you can do, right? If you have a banner and an icon, and even like kind of a decently worded out description of your app, you can create a press release. And it sounds insane, but you create like a 2-pager PDF with a banner, a graphic, your description, all your screenshots, a press kit, which is like a link to screenshots, I think. And then you send it out to these people, and they'll print you. Because they need content, right? These sites need content. They're all blogs. Not only are there blogs, there are podcasts, there are YouTube reviewers. If you send them a press release, they will review your stuff. And if you're telling them verbatim what to say in the press release, they'll oftentimes quote you and use the assets you provide them. So you can frame the conversation while they get it, and they'll publish it. Here's some examples. There's a lot of blogs. There's a lot of Android enthusiast blogs out there that'll publish you, and then you can submit to podcasts and YouTube. Again, those independent reviewers. But on podcasts, you can be a guest on some of these podcasts as a developer with a hook as to why you develop in the industry, and just straight up plug your app. So if you want to go that route. It's a snowball effect, though. If you get featured on any of these sites, you can get picked up by the other, and it just picks up. So that's the point of that. So I went over design and promotion. They're kind of hand in hand, right? The next one isn't so clear, and this is something that a lot of people just don't even know about. And it's probably the least and most important of them, but I'm still going to bring it up because it's shameless self-promotion for me. We all use Play, but did you know that XDA is an app store that I just mentioned? And XDA Labs is a very small app store. It only has about 1 million users. It has less than 1,000 devs, but XDA Labs, if your app is on there, it gets featured on there for a while. It becomes very prominent on the site. If your app looks good, you'll get a lot of users very quickly. I posted an app to XDA and to F-Droid, and within a couple days, I had 20,000 users just from those two sites. So you can be a big fish in a small pond with some of these platforms. If your app is open source, that's amazing. You can leverage the open source community. The open source community loves to promote their own. They love open source and they love promoting open source. It's a really great community to be a part of. But a lot of people can't monetize their apps with open source, obviously. But imagine there's a component in your app that you can extract out and make a library, and open source your library, right? There's ways of getting into these communities, and these two platforms are, XDA Labs. XDA is a large user base. There's a lot of people on that platform, and F-Droid, of course, the open source community is huge too. Finally, engaging users, and this is like the most interesting, I think, of the points that I'm bringing up tonight. It's not just people using your app. It's not just the way they use your app. It's about engaging them in other ways, in ways that aren't just the typical use cases of your app. So it's about fostering a community. And this is, I know it's a quote by me that I made up tonight, but I really believe that. Like, users given the chance will help you. I really think that's true. I think that a user, if you give them the proper avenue and the proper way to like get involved and contact you, I think they will. From my experience, they will. I think that you should always kind of reassure when you can. You know, comfort the user. You have to like coddle them in a lot of cases. You've all seen the 1-star. I've gotten a 1-star review that was like, just installed the app. If I like it, I'll rate it 5 stars.
Oh my God.
So I have part of, you know, it's like, you're not going to win that battle, right? So you got to figure out a way to kind of coddle the user into feeling better about the whole experience. So if something goes wrong and you can help, this is my error screen. You can't really see too well, but it's a network error. And there's a couple of calls to action and reassurances on this page. The first thing it says is the admins have been notified. It's like, this error that just happened to you, the admins know about it, baby. Don't even worry about it. They already are on it. They're fixing it right now. And then it thanks them for their patience and reminds them that the app is in beta. So hopefully already, if the user's pissed, they're like, all right, well, it's in beta, and they know about it. That's cool. The next 2 buttons, one is a link to a Telegram chat channel. Anybody here use Telegram? I feel like people that use Telegram are afraid to raise their hands. People are like, listen, it's fine. Telegram is like a chat thing. It's like IRC, except there's a lot more GIFs. Anyway, but the point is, though, is that if you have a dedicated chat channel, and the other link is to a forum thread. What it does is the user encounters an error. This is not a good scenario for a user, right? They're like, there's a network error. They can't view their content. And they're like, the other alternative, if it's just some crappy error screen, is they just give you a 1-star. In this, they can join a chat, they can join a thread, they can leave their comments, they can talk to the dev maybe if you're there. But what it does is it creates, like, imagine you're not there, and then like 2 users join a chat, and they're both like, hey, the server's down. And then they're like, hey, we're 2 users. We're like suffering together. And then they have that like company in misery situation, and maybe they don't give you a 1-star. Maybe like everybody's cool with the situation, right? So the idea is, though, if you leave these channels of communication, users will engage. Like, it sounds silly, like your app crashes, a user joins your chat channel. I've literally had users join a chat channel and then proceed to stick around for the next year and get into like professional Android development because of the chats that happen in the channel. So you never know what's going to happen with some of these users. So that was a network error. This is a library. Has anyone heard of this library? Wow, okay. So it's called Custom Activity on Crash. What it does is it intercepts an exception in your app. You can still use your issue trackers or whatever. You display an activity, that cute little bug activity, right, instead of that error message, with a restart app. In one of my apps, I modified that a little bit. I got to have the dark theme with the users I have. They won't accept anything else. And I also added first of all, it says, again, the devs have been notified. You really got to make them think that you're trying to fix their issue immediately, right? They love that. And then it says, hopefully this is a minor issue. And then there's like a load thread thing, and there's a restart app thing. They can even copy the stack trace. XCA users are kind of enamored, but like they do that kind of stuff, you know. But what it does is it gives them like all these calls to action. Like they're overwhelmed at this point. There's like 4 buttons. They're not going to leave a 1-star review. They're looking at this and going like, oh shit, which of these buttons do I got to click on? They have no idea. Finally, in the same vein as the like chat and the thread, has anybody heard of Crowdin? 1 dude? All right. 2. Okay. So Crowdin is a site where you upload your string. I'm surprised because it's really good. You upload your strings file, and then anybody else can translate your app into their native language. If you put an about page in your app with a list of translations and a link to Crowdin, people will just start translating your app. If you have a chat room where they're encouraged to translate, people will translate your app. You're giving them a venue to participate and to help you and to contribute to the app. And I mean, I joked about them like just, you know, like the whole avoidance of a 1-star thing, but it really is about creating a community because these people join these chat rooms and they kind of meet people they like and they talk about it and they get into the tech. And this is the same thing. You'll get people translating and you'll get beta testers. You'll get these hardcore users who will help you out and will make your app better because they'll just make it easier and better for you as a developer. So that's it. The final points that everybody should remember here. Make your app pretty with a designer. Get a designer. You don't have to pay Toronto prices. There's people. Send out a press release. There's blogs, there's podcasts, there's YouTube, there's lots of places to send to. Just send them an email. Don't auto-send it. Just send them an email, like maybe reference an article they wrote. You gotta play your, you know. Distribute, right? You gotta be a big fish in a small pond. You gotta use the app store that XDA has, I guess. I don't really care, to be honest, but like it is pretty good. If you use it, it's great, and if you use F-Droid, you'll probably see good results. And finally, be a chat slave. Be on a chat, give your users a chat, get them to engage in your app, and hopefully those 1-star reviews will be turned into 5-star. Thank you. I don't have a question slide, so you're just gonna have to look at Ethan. And if you have any questions.
So you said to message bloggers or podcasts on if you want to advertise your app. Sorry, do you mind explaining a little bit more about the press release? And at the same time, like, how do you prevent feeling like you're spamming them? Like, I don't want to just randomly send a blogger just a message, just like, hey, do you mind advertising my app?
Seriously, just message us, it's fine.
Yeah, so Steve's a writer for XDA. He publishes app, like, he would be part of the people that would receive literally an email request about it. And yeah, here's the thing, they're bloggers. Like, I know they're journalists. Like, I'm not discounting Steve, but like, yeah, it's not, I mean, they need content, right? Like, here's the thing, if what you're basically saying to me is like, I'm spamming them. If your app is good enough, it's not spam. Because they publish app reviews every day about like Facebook, like any app time, like WhatsApp makes a change or whatever, they publish that, right? Why not your app? It's how you perceive your app and how you perceive the value of your app. And yeah, even if it's like small and not like the most popular chat client, that's fine. But it just comes down to you being able to sell yourself. And if it looks professional, then they'll take it seriously because journalists need to be taken more seriously. Yes.
So,
Young man in the back. In the video.
so you said we can put up our app on XP store, right? As a developer, what are the things that I should keep in mind publishing their app across the Play Store? Because if I want to do something like say in-app purchase.
Damn, that was a good question. So XDA's App Store, I'm not really trying to sell it, to be honest. Like I think that it is a good kind of platform that people don't use as much as they should because there are a lot of crazy dedicated XDA users who are amazing. But first of all, the XDA App Store is free. So if you don't want to pay the developer fee on Play, you can. Second of all, 100% of the proceeds go to the developers. On Play, it's like 66 whatever percent, 70%. 70% of Play proceeds go to you, the developer, 30% go to Google. On XDA, it's 100% to you. Third, another finance thing, because, bottom line, but XDA also takes like Bitcoin and other types of currency that are available in some countries that Play doesn't accept. The downside is that Play is a weird third-party app store that you can't download off Play, right? Like you have to side-load it as an app store. It's kind of insane, but you do get. There are apps on XDA Labs that have made tens of thousands of dollars in revenue solely off of Bitcoin. And I don't know how it happens, but people pay for these apps, and it's a thing. Anyway, to answer your question better, though, I think that it's very similar to Play. It's free. I'd say the only thing you really got to do is maybe cater more to your audience. On Play, there's screenshots and banners that are more to kind of cater to maybe a Google audience. Your audience is probably more technical and probably more savvy, so don't dumb it down as much. Maybe just still make it look good. I don't know. There's not much of a difference. Users are users.
But I mean, say the Play payment library, things like that. Does XDA provide an API to?
Yeah, there's no API. No, so you're absolutely right. I mean, if at the end of the day, Play, in-app purchases are amazing, and the flow is pretty good. It's pretty instant. It's pretty convenient. Yeah, XDA doesn't have that for sure. It's it loads it uses the proper libraries to load PayPal and the Bitcoin client or whatever wallet that you have installed on your phone, but it's not so bad. It's a couple clicks more. It's not bad. There's no manual insanity, but it's not as XDA doesn't have a framework embedded into the phone like Google does. So there are obviously those differences. But that said, it's really not that bad. And the devs. It's funny, whenever I ask for feedback from devs, I'm what can make it better? The feedback is always pretty tepid. People are usually pretty cool with it despite the kind of added inconveniences. So it's up to your discretion. I mean, it's a free thing. If at the end of the day you get no downloads, who cares? If you already upload a banner and and a couple of screenshots to play, like why not just do another store? That said, I never used Amazon Store myself, so maybe I'm a hypocrite. Yes.
So are you able to do like alpha, beta channel?
On XDA Labs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like for the record, because Play at first was like you had to sign up to a Google group. Remember that? You had to sign up to a Google Plus group to join beta testing for Android apps. It was a nightmare. And one of my apps has a Google Plus group, and it sucks. But yeah, no, there's no. It's like it links to the XDA thread in the kind of App Store thing, and yeah, it's there. You can have alpha, beta, and stable channels. They can subscribe to each. You can have changelogs for each. Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, in your presentation you said to engage, and once you have enough user base, you get like emails all the time.
Yeah. You're not wrong. So, okay, and I feel like I mentioned it when I was repeating the talk to myself earlier today, but and I didn't mention it right now, but yeah, this is like more of a tip for starting out for sure. Because if you have a chat channel and you're okay, here's the thing though, like if you have a channel and you have millions of users and you're getting overwhelmed with chat and such, that's kind of like a good problem to have. If you're that popular and you have that many users, probably not so bad, right? But definitely this is more for users starting out, you know. But I think that's most of the challenge. If you've made it that big and you have that many users, you probably do. Is that?
All the emails, or
Sorry, say that again.
you reply to all the emails, or just
So Eric over the weekend linked a bunch of us a video of a talk that happened last year, and it was a guy talking about how he deals with feedback. Maybe you can post it later, but like it was really good, and it was about like. The guy goes into detail about how he replies to like every single review. And I felt really guilty because I never reply to reviews. I like hate Google Play reviews. Like they really creep me out. I never reply to any of them. But I was like, that's so smart. Like I should definitely be doing that. But I think that like but that's the same thing. I would rather chat with someone and have a conversation, at least over text to some degree, than like reply to a Google Play review. Because those are tough. Like it's like someone just leaves you a thing and they drop them like every time. Like it's super rude. Again, the guy that installed my app and just instantly gave me a 1-star before even loading the app for the first time. Like those are those kinds of reviews you get, right? So I don't know how to answer that, but dig in, just try.
What was the custom crash library they used?
It was called, I think, Custom Activity on Crash. I'll link it later. Does it say? No, that's like a thing. I don't know. I think it is called Custom Activity on Crash. It's really good. Just Google, if you just Google Custom Activity on Crash, it'll show you the GitHub for it. It's really sweet though. There it is. Sorry.
I'll try to put links in when we make the videos.
Yeah. I honest to God think that every app should kind of use this because the default, I mean, they have changed it in N and O for sure. There's there's all types of play integrations now, but like creating your own activity for it is probably the best case, right? Like if you can reassure the user, they see a logo that's part of your app, it doesn't look like every other crash, they think it's being handled different. And I think that's important. I think that goes to the user experience. Any others? All right.